Welcome back everyone to Minecraft. Today we're going to be going over some small updates that I've recently made to SGT. This is SGT update version 2.3.1 or 2.3.1 or however you want to say it. I don't like the point because that doesn't make any sense, but 2.3.1 I guess, whatever. SGT 2.3 sub update 1. There you go. Now, this is something that I would like to include in SGT in the future, maybe even in version 2.4. But for now, I kind of have half a working feature, and I'm not entirely happy with the things that we've got in the pack. So I'm going to keep working on some of these in the future, and maybe they'll get brought up again in the future if we were to do something differently with this. But anyway, these features are going to be in SGT in some form in the future. Now, as you may have seen from the thumbnail and the title already, the highlight of today's episode is to do with frostwalking horses. Frostwalking horses? What do you mean frostwalking horses? Yes, you can put frostwalker armor on. You can put frostwalker on iron horse armor. Now, obviously, you can't usually do this. If I was to go into game mode survival like so and try and do this, it's going to give me a fat no. You cannot apply frostwalker or any enchantment for that fact to iron horse armor at all. It is simply impossible. Yeah, but you can get Frostwalker Iron or Horse Armor, because if I go in game mode creative, obviously if I'm in creative mode, I can combine them together. If I'm using commands, I can actually use commands to, summon in Iron Horse Armor with Frostwalker enchantment on there. Yeah, so you can do it. You can get Frostwalker on horse armor. That's the thing you can do. Obviously, in the future, I aim to make it so that you'd be able to get something like this legitimately without having to use cheats. And that'll be likely through villager trading or finding this item in dungeon chests, similarly to how you find Frostwalker in the End City raids. But yeah, obviously, you guys know that I don't really like doing things with custom crafting. A lot of people do in-world crafting, where you would throw items on top of an anvil or throw items on top of a custom crafting bench or the appropriate workstation, and they will magically puff together. Now, I have absolute respect for people using that kind of custom crafting, especially people who use things like dispensers that have custom textures over them to make custom crafting recipes. That's crazy. That's really good. Good for you. But for me personally, I choose to rebel against Mojang and say, you should add NBT crafting. So until they do, I refuse to add custom crafting. Unless it makes sense in a sort of lore way. So obviously boiling food in a cauldron, I can accept that. Obviously we have all of our boiled food from SGT v1.3, was it? v1.3, that was a long time ago now. Yeah, v1.3, obviously we have boiled food. The only other option I can really think of is villager trades, because villager trades feel pretty natural as well. Obviously you can come up to a village. Why is your trades higher? I think I killed your friend, didn't I? It's number 5. Number 5 killed my brother. Yeah. So, yeah, you can trade with villagers. That's cool. I really like the idea of using trades to sort of use villagers to combine two things together. So the very likely scenario with this is what I would do for the trade is if you had something like a librarian villager who was very high level, then maybe the last trade would be combine a horse armor with a Frostwalker book to get Frostwalker horse armor. Maybe it would be like a librarian or a blacksmith or a weaponsmith, or maybe even like, is that like an equestrian villager? Like, I guess it would be like a farmer villager, wouldn't it? There's like a leather worker, but that's a bit disturbing. No, I'm not going to... No. Never mind. But yeah, basically, at some point in the future, there will be a way of adding horse armor to Minecraft that has Frostwalker on it. So if I get a saddle over here... I finished rambling now, I'm so sorry. So yeah, the thing I want to actually show you in this episode is that the functionality for this Frostwalker armor is already working. If you put Frostwalker armor on a horse, it will frostwalk, as you can see there. It's a very big area. I like the idea of it being a huge area because obviously horses themselves are quite large compared to the player. So yeah, and obviously you can see this isn't just being executed at horses, it is specific to the armor. So if I take the armor off the horse, you can see he's no longer generating the frosted ice underneath him, and the Frostwalker is no longer working. And once again, if I put the Frostwalker armor back on him, he will once again generate frost underneath him. Now this is a really easy thing to detect. All you really need to do is just simply look in the horse's inventory, see what item it has in this slot, and then if it's horse armor, check if it has Frostwalker, and then obviously if you want to specify the level of Frostwalker, you can. Right now I haven't done because I'm going to make it so that you can only get Frostwalker 2 Iron Horse Armor, and obviously gold and diamond and leather horse armor as well. But for now, obviously, any form of Frostwalker on a horse will give them this effect, which isn't actually Frostwalker, it just mimics Frostwalker. I've actually just realized I could technically make a really authentic Frostwalker by having an invisible armor stand summoned to the horse's location, and then it would sort of follow him along with actual Frostwalker boots, because Frostwalker boots work on armor stands. All this is really doing is it's just doing /fill in an area, and then filling the area with frosted ice, because that is a thing that you can very easily easily do. So it's not entirely authentic. If I'm to stand still on the horse, eventually the ice will break, but it will be instantly replaced again, which is obviously not accurate to how Frostwalker works on players. If I was a player trying to use Frostwalker, as soon as the ice cleared from underneath me, it would be gone. There is kind of like motion required when you're using Frostwalker, really. So it's kind of like discount Frostwalker. It does work, but it's not entirely accurate to how it would work. But again, this isn't supposed to be a working feature yet. This is intended for when I implement it properly in the future. But for now, if you guys want to test what it would be like to ride a horse with Frostwalker, you're more than welcome to, because quite frankly, it feels really, really cool. Now, finally, one last thing we do have now is also a toolbox update. So if we do function toolbox, you'll see we now have a new command called custom items. If I was to select this item, you can see that I've now added a command to spawn in loads of custom items that are added by my datapacks, and there are some new things here, so we're going to go over them just quickly. This currently is only in SGT version 2.3.1, but I will be adding this to the toolbox in future versions of the other datapacks. I could have done a sub update for all three, but I just these are all experimental features anyway, so I'm kind of like limiting them to SGT, which is kind of the quote unquote main datapack for now. So obviously you may recognize some items here. We have the wither bow, which is of course the the bow that withers spawn with. Let me just see if I can get a wither. So obviously withers, sometimes when they spawn in, will spawn with a bow. So you can see there. So this is just a feature from SMC, is that 3 out of 10 wither skeletons, or 30%, will have this black wither bow texture. And of course, that has the same standard hand drop chance as everything else. So you can occasionally get yourself a black wither bow like that. And yeah, this is one of the items that will get spawned in by doing this command. What this command is essentially is just a way of giving you, in creative mode, all of the items that I've added through my datapacks. So we have the void magnet. This is obviously the thing from SGT, which can be used to zuck items. And you can obviously shift and right click to switch to long range mode, and you can long range capture items, or you can switch back to passive mode, and you can just leave it on in your inventory and it'll pick up all the items from around you. It's really cool. I really love this thing. It's a fantastic item. Obviously, spawning it in is a bit of a nightmare, so if you use this function, it will just give you the perfect working void magnet first time. After that, we have the Ravager horn, which is the new item dropped by the Ravager that was introduced in version 2.3. And again, this is just, it's formatted correctly, so it will have the correct name, the correct texture, the correct enchantment, and you can get this perfectly by simply using the command instead of trying to spawn it in yourself, or instead of having to kill a Ravager manually, which is just boring and slow. And in addition to these 3 new unique items that I've added in previous versions of SMC and SGT, we now also have the elemental arrows. These are arrows that I'm planning on adding in a future update, once again heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. We have the fire arrow, the shock arrow, ice arrow, ender arrow, bomb arrow, and also the void arrow as well. Now, it's very common play for a lot of resource packs and data packs to add custom arrows to the game, and I really like the idea of doing it. And as usual, if I get an idea from something that seems kind of trashy, I'm going to do it properly. So my fire arrows, shock arrows, and ice arrows are going to work very differently to how you would initially expect, but they're going to work very well. And we also have ender arrows, which are, you can't really do much with an ender arrow, so we're just going to keep that to be exactly what you expect. Of course, we have bomb arrows, which are just very, very simple. I'm sure everyone could expect what that is. And of course, we have void arrows, which are going to be probably the most interesting one out of the load as well. So in a future version of SGT, or a future update of a future pack, which is currently in the works, we will actually see the introduction of these 6 elemental arrows. But I've already designed the textures for them because I just wanted to, and I wanted to give you guys the option to see these things in game. They don't currently have any functionality. If you try and use them with a bow, nothing will happen. They'll just have some nicely colored particle effects. So yeah, other than that, that's kind of all I have to say about the new items, really. So if you want to stick Frostwalker armor on a horse, it will now be able to frostwalk, and if you use the new function, you'll be able to get a preview of all the upcoming items, and also be able to get perfect iterations of the custom items that you can get throughout my datapacks. So yeah, thanks for watching. Back with more content soon. Bye.